Looks like I'm going to change things up this month. All right, we're back. Alan's with me again because last time it was such a productive episode with Alan helping me out.
Might be a bit of a stretch. I don't know. It was fun anyway. It was enjoyable. I had a good time.
Productive is a kind of a relative term, I guess. All right, so we are going to continue with calls for submissions.
All right.
And this first one is, the publisher is Hawk and Cleaver. This is another podcast, so which means that they're going to have a narrator read this. And they are... so that's great. Like we talked last video, to get paid for your work and have someone read it, that's like really awesome.
So it's like adult story time.
That's right. And Alan's going to have his fruit snacks. He's going to have
popcorn. You should have popcorn
and fruit snacks. And
all the kids can get their little squares of carpet out to sit on. Yeah. Right. Okay. So come on. Just
picture that while you're writing your story. All right. The due dates.
Picture us sitting on little carpets.
Yeah. Picture us sitting on little carpets with our, legs crossed and everything.
Right.
All right. Due dates by May 27th. The pay rate is £15. So.
How much is that? Is it half or?
It doesn't matter. It's.
I think it's like half.
Pounds
$70,
aren't real money, so it doesn't really matter. If you get it, you can just, put it on your wall.
Pounds aren't real money?
No, they're that British stuff.
Is that like a state of mind, like, these pounds right here aren't real either, the ones I'm hanging around my gut? That's if I think that they're not real, then they won't be?
I'm going to go with that. Right. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. So pounds aren't real money anyhow. Monopoly money. So you get 15 of those, not real money. But the opportunity is great if you want to hear your story with a British accent, because who doesn't love a British accent, right? Except maybe the British.
Everyone, because that just sounds normal to them, right?
Yeah, they're like, what are you talking about? We don't have an accent. It's you Americans that have an accent.
You all sound slow and dumb. I bet they think we sound slow and dumb.
I think they think we sound rude.
That's just the people from Texas. Isn't that
from New York? From New York.
New York.
Texas.
Maybe we are rude. Are we rude? I think
we Americans are considered rude.
We're inherently rude.
And
let's not go there.
Yeah, they may. The rest of the world might be right about that. All right. So if you want to hear your story in a British accent, and £15, I don't think it's double. I think it's slightly more.
I kind of want to write a story and hear it in a British accent.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think it'd be about. I think it'd be about $20. Is what the £15 would be with the conversion,
really?
Right? Yeah. So you're definitely not. But since the limit's 2,000, that's not a lot. That roughly would translate into 8 pages. If you wrote the full 2,000 words, that's like an 8-page story. More likely, you're going to end up in the 4 to 6 page range. So just to give you an idea of that.
And it's per page, right?
Right. Of course, they're going to be reading it. So I'm not sure that translates into pages. That kind of translates into minutes.
I don't know how they would do that.
Yeah. Well, they're going to pay you. Oh, they're going to pay you £15.
It's a word limit.
No, there's a word limit.
Oh, word limit.
Yeah, there's a word limit. But yeah. All right. So their theme is mazes.
Mazes, kind of like all over the place, kind of like we are.
Yeah.
Mazes.
I didn't pick this one because I thought that the actual call theme was like outstanding.
Like actual mazes, like navigating a maze? Are we talking like trying to figure out my wife's mind? Because it feels like a maze to me.
I'm not sure they're calling for
There's
horror.
There's a lot of dead ends.
I'm not sure they're calling for horror, so let's not go with that, all right?
For my wife or me?
We don't. No, okay.
You
for
know
your
what? That's
wife.
a bad direction.
For your wife.
There's going to be no intimacy at my house for a long time. Anyway.
I was thinking your ex-wife. I'm thinking
that's
your ex-wife.
No, that is a horror film.
That is horror.
Okay.
Not his current
let's not
wife.
go there either. That's
Nice.
You're right, but no.
I would not say that about his wife that he's married to now. She's awesome.
Everybody says that.
But we don't want to put her in a story because, she's just awesome.
Not a mazes story. I don't think she likes mazes.
Well, that's
she
who
wouldn't want to be lost. Lost.
Well, okay, that's a
so
maze.
Feeling lost. So is this a metaphorical maze? Or are we? Why do I always go to the emotional stuff? Emotional maze.
You're a very emotional guy.
What if it's not? Let's just do a corn maze.
All right. So to be serious for a moment, if they're calling for mazes, they are going to want more of a physical representation of a maze, although I imagine that if you're really clever about it, that kind of a maze could be less the traditional corn maze.
Yeah, right. You don't want to do that. That's too much.
No,
do they say fantasy or sci-fi or anything like that?
I did not pick up on that.
Okay,
but
so it could be any.
We'll just say any. What really you should do is, if you are serious about writing for this one,
go check it out and make sure.
Go check it out. I'll put the link to their call for submissions page in the comments section. Whatever.
Okay, yeah.
So I'll put that in there. You can check that out yourself. Let's just go with that as probably the general sci-fi fantasy horror that they're looking for.
All right.
So, and I don't know that I want to do horror because mazes just lends itself so easily to horror. Yeah. That's going to be done.
It's not very creative.
It's not creative. And that is one of the...
it could be fun, but it's not creative. But sci-fi could be fun. Maybe.
Yeah. Right. And fantasy would be the second most common use, and sci-fi would be... Yeah, that's different. That is a very different.
You can use all the themes, and somehow they're transported to each of the different areas: the fantasy and the sci-fi.
Yeah, it's a short story.
And then it's a short story. Yeah, you're right. That's too much. Yeah, that's a longer,
it is a short. Yeah. It's on the shorter side for a short story.
So a really short story with mazes.
Right.
Wow.
Oh, so portals. So dimensional portal kind of thing, right? And so you keep maybe
you're like one of those circus mirror.
I got it.
Mirrors things, but it's portals.
So it's a salvage crew. It's a salvage ship. So this is a crew in a ship that they're out in space, and when they find derelict ships, they put a claim on it, and if that's authorized by the space government.
All right.
They can haul that in on Earth. So they're in there investigating to make sure there's no one alive, that they can put that claim in there, and then they keep walking through portals as they go through the ship. They'll either be going down halls and stuff, and all of a sudden, boom, there's a portal. And so it's a maze. Yeah. But it's a maze without the traditional walls.
I like it.
Yeah, right.
Are they just random portals, or
are
they set in spots?
They'd be set in spots.
Right, maybe it's the ship's protection. Oh. The people are actually there.
Oh my goodness!
You just can't see them because you're in a different dimension, and you got to get through the right portals to show up on the right ship with this group of.
No, I like the idea that
punk people.
I like the idea that this race is dead. This is an ancient race.
That's really nice. Let's wipe out an entire.
I didn't wipe them out. Hey! I didn't wipe them out.
You're the story
that happened
writer.
Before the story. Before I wrote the story, they were already dead. I'm sorry. Blame whoever actually wiped them out. I'm just writing the story after. It could be, but the point is, so I feel that
that's pretty good. That's a good background, though. I think the key for this type of story would be the setting, right? Like.
Absolutely.
Sci-fi in a derelict ship that's really creepy. Portals that You have to figure out. Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. I mean, so actually, I'm really now excited about this concept, and I'll tell you why. So, you know that I'm working on the Kicks Comics thing.
Yeah,
That started. Yeah, that started as a short story submission for an anthology. So pretty much doing what.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah. So I wrote a short story for an anthology based on a prompt, right? What they wanted, and it turned out so good because the universe, the story concept is fantastic.
It really is good.
So actually, I think that
this was not bad. What if you have to build tensions in stories, right? So you could go with a portal monster if you're more horror or whatever, right. Or you could go with what? I don't know, a bomb. You find out that there's a bomb, but you can't get to it because of the portals, or
the ship is waking up extra defense systems and so it is kind of as you go. It's a ticking bomb. You got to get out of there now.
And you get on, and you can't get off.
Right, so your crew members, you're losing crew members one at a time. Like every time you go through one of these portals, someone in your group dies.
They don't come through the portal.
Right.
And then you find a mass.
Or they do. You get to a room. No, you get to. Okay, that's sounding like a longer story than 2,000 words.
2,000,
however,
but you could do that. You could.
Okay, but for me, this has already been worth it. I mean, this is why I will often myself consider these, because I can already tell that what I can come up with for this race that has gone extinct, right? For whatever reason, maybe their own science has killed them, right? But they dealt with portals and moving to other realms and everything. I feel I could write an entire series of novels based in the universe.
Yeah, right. That sounds like a really good start.
And this is a good starting point for it. And so for those of you out there who are already writing, check out these writing check out these writing prompts and see where it leads you, because often they can lead you to a really good story world and concept that can launch a series of stories.
Yeah, it can lead to so many other ideas, right? I like that sci-fi idea. That sounds like a pretty fun story.
Yeah, right. And it's creepy. The derelict ship
is
creepy.
Everything's breaking down. Maybe the portals aren't working right. Anyway, it's just a fantastic idea.
And then there'll be the British accent
on top of it.
On top of that,
right?
Yeah. So nice.
And the token American character can die first.
Yeah.
I think the British would like that.
Yeah, especially since they don't have real money. That would be best.
We're going to get so many comments on that, I'm just saying.
All right, next one. The publisher is Atomic Carnival, which I love that name, right? This is due by June 30th. The pay rate is 3 cents a word, so it's not. I don't think that's quite prorate, but it's better than the 1 cent a word. I mean, so that's not too bad. Word limit's between 2,000 and 6,000 words.
Short story.
So this is definitely firmly in that average short story length. So that's what they're looking. And their theme is open all night.
Nice.
All right. And they want stories about graveyard shifts, overnight inventories, and all-night diners.
Ooh. What about the all-night diner?
That's where my mind went,
You got to reverse the eating, right? Not where the overnight people are actually the ones being eaten. I don't know. Is this a horror? They don't really say horror.
I don't have a...
They just leave it open. Okay.
Yeah. All-night diner.
I don't know. I'm just brainstorming, so I don't... normally you go to the diner, you get, your craving foods. Maybe you are the craving food. For some, they feed you, poison you, haul you in the back to feed to their creature.
So I
don't know.
Except
that sounds done, though. It sounds kind of...
I've seen this all-night diner thing done quite a bit. Doesn't mean you couldn't do it. It hasn't been done so much that if you see it, you're going to roll your eyes and go like, oh, my gosh, another one of these stories.
Well, that's true.
But, I mean, I think typically you would probably have someone end up there, they ran out of gas. They walk. They find this diner. They go in. They call for a tow truck. And it'll be a while. And then you have...
See, yeah, that's typical, right?
Yeah, that's pretty typical.
What if you go into this diner, and while you're in the diner, time stops? I mean, you don't know that. But time stops in the diner. And every time, maybe it's a normal stop that you go to, and you start to figure out that time is stopping. And it's always the same people in the diner. And they're always like a variety of different styles, like somebody from the 50s, somebody from the 70s.
Someone famous.
It could be somebody famous.
No, I think that'd be more fun, right? What if you went in?
Yeah,
and then the main character slowly figures out, like, oh, that's Mark Twain. That's Cleopatra.
Or, people that you wouldn't, like, what the hell are they doing in the diner? This must be good food.
Imagine Mark Twain having a discussion with Cleopatra, right?
Right.
A political discussion, right?
I don't know if we want to go the political route. What would they... Wow, that would be...
Okay,
that could be heated.
Mark Twain did a lot of...
I think Cleopatra would kill Mark Twain.
Literally?
Oh, yeah, are you kidding? She would, like, I don't like what you're saying. And
that's Caesar and beware the Ides of March. No, that's a different part of history.
Right.
Okay,
but the time stop thing is kind of nice. And every time you go back, and maybe this guy gets advice from older generations to fix his life.
And you
could go that route, right? Like, I need to fix my life. His life is in turmoil somehow. And he turns to the past to solve his issues.
Okay.
I mean, you could go that route.
No, absolutely. I mean, so now what I'm thinking, and I'm going to harken back to my comments about often I will look at these, generate some ideas, because eventually, almost always I end up coming up with something that I think is very usable and I can move forward with. Wait, let me finish. And with this, I'm thinking that you could do an anthology of your own. Even if you don't want to submit to this publisher, now I've got an idea. I mean, if I was going to go forward with it, right? I mean, it's like Tales from the All-Night Diner, right?
Yeah,
and
right. That's true, right?
I do a series of short stories, and I bring
with this mystical diner,
right? And I can have kind of
an
overall arc for the main character who keeps going back. Maybe he's a reporter, right? Maybe he's a down-on-his-luck writer, and the reason his car broke down is because he can't sell stories, and then he goes in, which would be kind of...
It could be
surrealistic because
it could be historical.
Me writing stories,
right? Maybe it's a historical mystery where he goes in and these people are actually dead but died years ago, and they give him information. He has to go out and solve their murders.
Okay. And what were you going to bring up?
Oh, I was going to say, let's say it's this guy. He comes to this diner. He figures out this is more the family route, right? So. He's got stuff to figure out in his life, but his background would be, say, his father died when he was little, right? So he doesn't really remember his dad too much. He figures out that his dad is in this diner, right? So there he is, and he gets to ask the dad all the questions he wanted to ask as a child, growing up, not having a dad.
That has a very Twilight Zone feel to it.
Right, but also like very touchy-feely, right?
Yeah, so let's not do that.
That's a good storyline. You don't like that? You don't think that would... People love that touchy-feely crap.
All right, and I do write that stuff. So... But, yeah, I don't want to admit that I write that stuff. All right, so...
Don't be afraid to
so
cry.
The all-night diner... I hate when I cry.
Crying is
Amber
good.
And I...
Are you kidding? Crying's good.
It's bad. It's evil.
It's not bad.
So some great ideas there for the all-night.
Bad. You don't want to cry in a diner.
Well, isn't it the same thing? If we're talking about writing stories about an all-night diner and I cry, wouldn't that be the same as crying in a diner?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's go with that.
All right. So. I had another idea, and I've had it for like many minutes, and Alan has distracted me.
I've dominated. I'm sorry.
Okay, graveyard shifts. They talked about graveyard shifts.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, like, oh, that is great. So you could take a list of jobs where it is possible to work the graveyard shift, right? So stay away from the all-night diner or restaurant or whatever, right? But how many other ones? And then build a story around that. I got to think that.
What I was just thinking, what if, like an actual shifting, like the graveyard is shifting, right? Graveyard shift. Play on words. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out. Maybe the graves shift around and move. Guy shows up every night and he's like, wait a minute. And he's super bored, so he's reading all the headstones or whatever. I don't know. Shifting through time. I've got this real time thing going on, I guess.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, they move around, and then there's conversations between the dead people. Oh. And so every night,
Like they come out of their grave?
No. You just
hear it.
It'd be better for a comic, I think, right? Because you would have the
yeah,
headstone. You'd have the headstone, and then you'd get the dialogue balloons coming out, right?
Yeah, just be easy to draw.
Yeah.
Look, a gravestone.
That would be fun. Right?
It could be.
I like that. No, but I'm thinking there's so many jobs that you do that you have a graveyard shift. Pick one that's not typical. And then, this kind of a theme really lends itself way more towards horror than the other ones. So how could you turn your normal job, or a normal job if it's not the one that you have, into more of a horror story, right?
Well, taxes are kind of horrific.
They're already there.
But I don't want to do taxes. Don't ever write a story on taxes. Not entertaining.
Yeah, very boring.
Yeah.
All right, so those are the ideas for that. So
that's not a bad idea.
There's a lot.
Yeah, it's a good way to think outside the box.
Think outside the box. That's tons of possibilities there.
Play on words
and it gets you away from the all-night diner, which has been done, right? There's plenty of things.
They've been done tons. That's true.
So I used to work security monitoring. So I was in a central location. Alarm comes up, and I'd see that. Wouldn't that be great? So yeah, right. I mean,
you see something on the screen. I don't know, a murder or something happened, or something on the screen, and then when you go back to play it again, it's gone.
It's gone. Or how about this?
And it keeps happening.
And if you don't want horror, maybe I see aliens.
Right, it could be anything. It could be a creature.
Right?
It could
and
be,
they keep showing up, and the story unfolds
could be
because,
your ex-wife.
yeah. And then I'm like, hey, come here. And then by the time anyone gets over there, they're like, what? There's nothing. There's nothing there.
No, rewind it.
No. Right? I mean, so, yeah, there's some ways to work with that.
Right?
And you can come up with some pretty interesting ideas.
Only
all right.
He can see it, even on video, or whatever, which has kind of been done, but it's still kind of fun.
Okay, our last call for submissions is from Drabblecast, and they have this is also a podcast. They're going to read the stories, and they have kind of like divisions where, depending on how long of the story, somebody wants like super short stories, but they are going to read them out loud. This is due by May 26th. The pay rate is 6 cents a word, which is good.
Okay.
All right, and I just don't remember anymore where the cutoff for the official pay rate, pro rate, is. However, they also offer 3 cents a word for reprints. Yeah, I mean, so you're not...
maybe you just... It's nice because you've already done it. Maybe you rework it a little bit, reword it, clean it up, send it again.
Right.
That's
so
not too bad.
A lot of the writers, I mean, if they're going to make money, it takes so long to write that story. So they make money because they continue to write.
Yeah.
And then they continue to submit. So they might, in any given week, they might sell a new story, and they might sell 3 reprints. And all of that combined gives them enough money that, it's a job.
Might be worth it, right?
Yeah.
And what's the word count on this one?
500 words to 4,000. So
500. Wow. Okay.
That is about 2 pages.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Okay.
And I have a story that's 2 pages long.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's the one my wife hates. Okay, actually, she hasn't read it. Because I wrote one was
Why
not...
does she hate it if she hasn't read it?
Because it's Christmas.
Oh, I got you.
So I wrote one where Santa is a communist. She hated that. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. And then
There's
wrote
so many comments on that right now that I'm not going to share.
and
I'm
wrote
not going to share those.
And then I wrote one where Santa is a pagan god.
I think Santa is a pagan god, isn't he? I mean, the
Krampus.
concept.
Krampus. So think of Krampus.
Oh.
Right. So
I think you told me that, but that's not a 500-word one. That's
it was
was
pretty.
it?
It was
I
pretty.
thought
Yeah.
it was
Oh
long.
my gosh.
I thought
No.
that one was long.
No,
Oh.
it is really short. And when the anthology came out, they were looking for 2,000 to 5,000 words. I mean, they were typical.
Okay.
And I'm like, I'm going to submit. And I said, I know that you're asking for a word count higher, but I think you're going to find that this fits really well.
Did they take it?
They did.
Oh wow! So,
In a heartbeat. They were like,
so
oh my gosh,
submit anyway,
yes.
just in case.
Sometimes. I mean, don't abuse it. Publishers don't like it, and agents don't like it when you don't pay attention to parameters.
Oh,
But
okay. Well, see, that's good to know.
sometimes you can get away with it, especially if you're like, I know this is off, but I think it fits so well into the theme that,
Right.
maybe you'll consider it. And sometimes they will. I mean, but you got to be really sure that story is great.
Top notch.
And top notch and definitely fits, right? That they're going to like, oh, yes, I have to have this in this anthology because it's so well. All right, so reprints 500 words to 4,000. The genre is Westerns with a speculative element.
Speculative what?
Speculative.
Wow,
Sci-fi, fantasy, horror. Speculative
Sci-fi,
fiction.
fantasy, western.
Or
horror
fantasy western or horror western.
Interesting. Right. Okay.
So this is also a podcast, and it's going to be so if you want to
western with
a
different themed western. Wow, that's kind of crazy.
I will say that I did submit for this one. I had a story that I've written. It fits within the parameters. It is a western with a sci-fi element. And,
okay.
Yeah, and I don't want to talk about it because I did submit it.
We're not going to share it because that would be.
But
I'm kind of drawing a blank on this one. A weird western, oddball western.
Western. Okay, I'll just say this.
Go ahead.
I'll just say that what my story deals with is a sheriff in a small town, and there is a dimensional portal in Devil Canyon, and so what happens is occasionally
it's Devil Canyon,
right? And so occasionally
it can't be Happy Canyon. That
occasionally
has the
that
evil portal.
Well, but the thing is, it's not this portal occasionally spits out someone from another dimension, who, of course, invariably don't get along with the people because they see them as monsters or whatever, food or whatever.
They revert cattle.
Yeah,
and
so
they think you're abusing them, and they've come to wipe us out.
I mean, so I'm hoping that they pick up, just because I think it'd be fun, and if not, I'm actually planning on turning that into a graphic novel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so. That's okay, and I'm going to turn it into a graphic novel eventually.
I think it's a great idea.
So even if they do pick it up, eventually I'll pick that. I'll do that.
Story ideas. Do you have any for this one?
So other than the one I've already submitted,
yeah. See, it's hard when you already have one, right? Because now you have to think of something else.
That's easy. You and I come.
How
up
would
with
you do a
stuff
fantasy western? That's. You know what I mean? That's kind of weird. Like, you think westerns, you have to have guns. Well, I guess fantasy doesn't have to be swords and bows and arrows, right? I mean, it could be... I don't know. What would make something different for a western?
Yeah, you have to bring in those other elements. So for fantasy... I don't think it's enough that we just bring in guys with swords and and armor. I think you have to bring in. I think you have to bring in magic, or maybe elves,
or both. Target practice.
Well, okay, it's a Western. So if we replace the Native Americans with elves,
okay, there you go.
right?
Like the group that's not accepted.
And it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, it could be any of them.
It doesn't have to be in our world. So I mean, that's the thing, right? So what if this is another one of those what ifs, and what if is the really great way for I think to come up with story ideas. So what if the Native Americans were actually elves all along? They were elves, or maybe they were the different fantasy races. So maybe there's elves, right?
That's a good idea.
And there's dwarves, and there's gnomes, and there's orcs. So it's like Earth, except when they came to North America, there's all these warring. Oh man,
factions.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but that's okay.
And so
that's a good setting.
move right. All right. And I'm telling you, this
bad.
is why it's great to respond to these calls for submissions, right? And so now we've been a country for 100 years, and
a lawless country.
Maybe it's a civil war. Now they want.
Yeah, but that's not really Western, though, is it?
No.
That's getting too far away from.
So
Western.
it's Western. So we're out west.
Maybe the Civil War is done. I mean, you could go with the traditional Western theme, right? Civil War is over, and now the opposite sides have to try and get along. What was that John Wayne movie where it had either side of the Civil War?
The Undefeated. Oh my gosh,
right?
I love that movie.
Where they had to get along and work together, and there was that.
They're going down to
amazing
Mexico.
Tension. It could be funny. You could make the orcs and the elves work together, or the dwarves hate everyone. They're surly.
All right, so
But yeah, you could have a group that has to work together to try and garner peace, or come up with
I love
peaceful solution or something.
I love it. I totally see. Now there's another story world that I'm now thinking that I would like to write. Okay, my dad is a cowboy. I grew up in a very cowboy-ish family, so writing westerns would be easy for me, and I enjoy it.
And it'd be fun to have dwarves as a sheriff. I mean, can you see that with the spurs and the horse? You got to have horses and stuff, right?
And they're hard to hit because they're short. So and then the gnomes would be even worse. I love the gnomes, because they're short and thin. They're hard to hit. So
I see the gnomes as shopkeepers.
So gunslingers, right?
You can have guns, I guess.
No, it's a Western.
Do you have to have guns?
Well,
so you're talking like modern fantasy, where they actually, more modern, where they actually have weapons and guns and.
No, I'm talking Western with fantasy elements. We've brought in the fantasy races. Okay. So imagine a gnome who is the #1 gunslinger, because in all the duels in the street, he's short and skinny, and so he's really
hard time getting that 6-shooter out. It'd be like a rifle, little pistol rifle. It's a 22.
So there we go. I mean, I'm liking that, and I could definitely do a lot. I think it would be very fascinating.
Yeah, you could put a real twist on the hero of the story.
All right, and then I want to briefly talk about turning Western into a science fiction story. But the thing is, a lot of space stories, space opera, science fiction
are actually Western.
They really are Westerns, just set in space, because you're dealing with a frontier, the wild frontier.
Firefly. Oh, I love that show.
Yeah, the best show ever.
Yeah, it was fantastic. If you haven't seen it, you need to see that show. Seriously.
Yeah. So, to me, going space isn't as much, unless you want to kind of do the same thing. The quick draw. I'm sorry, Star Wars
Star Wars is kind of. I mean, with the magical element, yeah.
Not with a magical element, because it's Western and sci-fi.
Jedi are kind of magical, right?
Yeah, we'll leave that out.
Force powers and all that. Okay.
Yeah, so you know what? I would stay away from the science fiction, because really half of the science fiction movies out there are really a Western in space. All right. I think that's it. Do you have any
No, I think
else?
That's good. This was fun.
I think we wasted a lot of time, but I've got a couple of really great ideas that I may decide to use and in future projects. I'm serious about that. Of course, it's not like I don't have anything going on now, right? I mean,
right.
All I need is more ideas to try to fit into my very
idea book. Yeah.
But I have a couple.
You have too many ideas.
Really. I do, and now
you need to go to group or therapy or something.
Yeah,
tone down the ideas.
Is there a 12-step program for people who come up with too many ideas? I mean, if there is, let me know. I probably need to attend. But I do seriously.
They call them tax seminars where they like numb your mind out and you just can't think after that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know that I want to subject myself to that.
It's like self-torture or something, you know. Yeah.
I'll just live with the
too
malady.
Much. I'm sorry I even brought it up. That's going to put a depressing pall upon our group here.
I am going to watch the video when it's done and add those ideas to my idea book and maybe do something with them in the future. All right. So that's it for this month. We're only going to do 2 videos. Let me know what you think about this format. And maybe we can get Alan back to do more. I mean, I think he had fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. So, because, we just do what we normally do.
Screw around, really. That's all we do.
And so that made it much easier. So please, if you like it, give it a thumbs up. Give us a subscribe. Make comments. If I get good reaction from this, I will continue to do this format and continue to talk about calls for submission and ideas. And then, if you want to steal our ideas because we talked about them.
We're putting it out there.
I guess you
it's
can.
It's not like they're copyrighted.
Right. They're not copyrighted. All right. So until next time, see ya.
Bye.